Hello and welcome to. Now I have the other podcast in my head. Oh, let's do it. Never mind. Hello and welcome to Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We're reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And I'm here from almost God knows where you are in the world. Kirsty Tait. Hello, Kirsty.
Hi, Phil. How are you? I'm in Bali currently.
All right. You're definitely a citizen of the world. I cannot keep track where you are any given day.
I spoke to my parents earlier and they feel the same.
All right. Okay. Category I've never been placed before, but feels cozy. All right. Bali. Okay. We're already middle into it. But before we jump into Bali and a lot of other exotic places where you spend your regular day, just maybe please give my audience a bit of a background and to kind of like save the wobbly start I was presenting today.
Well, thank you for having me firstly, Phil. So my name is Kirsty, originally born in the UK and was previously living in Panama, decided to leave last July and have been a citizen of the world ever since. Just kind of following the signs where I'm told to go, or I believe I'm told to go. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride. So I work in many different capacities, from speaker to helping retreats and also conscious communities. And I class myself as a soulpreneur. I really like that word. And yeah, I'm glad to be here and thank you for having me.
Well, I think the small introduction already, people's mind are going like, whoa, can we giving a playback? And we discussed before, are you a better fit to the marketing for healers? Are you a better fit for the spiritual conversation? And we decided this one, we're starting here and then we'll see where the future will bring us. But I think this is an interesting conversation for a lot of people, either within the spiritual community but also spiritual seekers can find a lot, I think, of value in this conversation. And we'll try to unfold it slowly. But let's a bit start with yourself and your own journey and search, and give us a little bit before we go into the technical things and the interesting things. There's a bit more about your own search, your own finding, your own interest into spirituality. So we have a bit of a baseline before we look at the things that you're doing.
Amazing. So I have been spiritual for 4 years. That's the easiest phrase to put it. But now looking back as a child, I was more spiritual than I thought I was. And I had a very, very abrupt awakening. I don't really like that word, but I was very much thrown into the deep end of spirituality. So I'd read an article about Silicon Valley entrepreneurs creating these multi-million-dollar businesses by microdosing. And I thought, that sounds great. At the time, I had a recruitment company and I really wanted to make the next step from 6 figures to then 7 and 8. So I asked my friend to get me some psilocybin. Now, what she told me was take 2 drops. However, she didn't tell me how much 2 drops were. And I took 2 pipettes and I had my notebooks next to me, and safe to say I didn't get my business plan written. So yeah, it was a crazy, crazy experience, 8 hours long. I was actually at my mum and dad's house at the time. They were downstairs watching the news at 10 and I was having this huge spiritual awakening. And before that, I didn't really believe in anything. I didn't even believe in myself. And then after that, I mean, my whole world has completely 180'd. And reality for me is very different to what it was kind of 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago.
What I've been fascinating it with you that I always have noticed that we have such like a fail-safe switch, or like a personal place of safety, or this is when things go crazy, this is where we go back to. And in the spirituality, we see this a lot, that people coming from every which way. We have a lot of finance managers. We have all kind of crazy people and coming to the spirituality, but then they express the spirituality through the lens of their life before. That is so fascinating that you said had a recruiting company and all the things that you did. And now you're living a spiritual life, but you still stay true to yourself by helping organize retreats, managing things. So it is this fantastic mixture that through the eye of spirituality, living your life all over again, just differently.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I like the word soulpreneur and not entrepreneur. But I am an entrepreneur at heart, and I love business. Like, I love the growth and watching people thrive in any capacity. And I truly believe you have to have a certain level of spirituality, whether you're aware of it or not, to be a successful entrepreneur. Because you have to have that belief in yourself, and whether that's a higher power or an internal capability, there has to be something that you have faith in, because being an entrepreneur can be challenging. It can be crazy. You can feel like you are the only one. So it's important to have a grounding and also a faith beyond yourself. So I see the two go hand in hand, and I really enjoy that aspect. I enjoy seeing how we can make our own worlds expand, but also expanding into the reach of others and how we can co-create.
Yes. What I was getting about and what I feel cozy about here is that the people who are watching us now, our audience, can see that you change your life completely and still everything stays a kind of familiar and the same. It feels so wonderful that we imagine, poof, and still no. It feels very cozy.
And it's something that a lot of people get stressed about or go into chaos. They think that they have to let everything go, or like let all this old belief system go, let their friends go. And that's not necessarily true. It's about finding what works for you, coming across authentically and learning what being authentic to yourself means. Because it really doesn't matter what environment you're in. If you're going to be, however you show up is authentic, then the people around you will resonate with that. Now, that doesn't mean that some people won't drop off and some things won't change, but it kind of comes back 360. You go through this view of like, oh, I don't want to be that person anymore. And then you come back and you're like, I didn't need to get rid of all of my stuff. Like, why did I do that? Well, this is a personal experience for me, but it's like, okay, right, I understand attachment, but also I like my clothes. Why did I?
Saying the woman who lives from a suitcase.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gets, but it's easier to not have too much clothes to be traveling around the world. But I also miss a lot of my clothes that I let go, and I like some of the material things, and there's nothing wrong with that either. And I think spirituality gets confused sometimes, and ultimately it's having the belief in how you'd like to live your life and live it authentically to you, not what other people tell you, not what me and you have on this conversation or this podcast, not what some spiritual mindset coach is telling you. What does your life mean to you, and how do you want to show up?
I think this was already a very important. If people just watch so far, I think they got something which I personally also agree with you so very much, that this need sometimes to just make a cut and leave everything behind may be understandable out of a very specific moment in time. But I think with you taking some of your life with you, transforming it and melting it together sounds to me a much more of a solid plan to experience true wholeness and not just making cuts in the middle of the life. But that's, just my personal favor. And obviously here we in a bit of an agreement. Now we did the harmonious part. We are in agreement, but there are things that you and me don't agree on. And before going, you don't know that, but I have to make a confession here. You know that you are the most quoted person on this podcast.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm happy to hear that. That's amazing.
I think the last 5 or 6 you so much got me in our previous conversation, in our meet and greet, and I think I've been quoting you 6 times already on different podcasts. So wherever you turn on any podcast, it's about you.
Amazing. I see. That is amazing. I love that. And welcome, hello to your audience that already apparently know who I am. So, hi, guys.
Quite a lot. All right, because here it goes. Dear listeners, follow me here and leave your comment, because this is an epic battle for humanity. And actually, a lot of people are on your side. I'm already in the majority here. So you're winning already.
Wow. Yes.
And the story goes like this. You basically said, I'm pointing this now. I was talking about spiritual way and path and trying to be like a good father figure, as I'm a part of your family now. And things need time and things develop and, just be patient, it all will grow. And you said, no, bollocks, I just reconnect with my past life. I just download all the wisdom from the lives I had before. And I'm just there. So basically, you may sit and meditate for 30 years, whatever I care for. I just download.
Yeah. And I mean, I love that you use the word bollocks. It's such an English word. We stress ourselves out way too much in spirituality, mindset world. We're always craving information from everything, that we listen to be influenced rather than inspired. And once I made that determination, actually a friend said it to me and he said, are you listening to be influenced or inspired? And I was like, wow, like that sat so deeply with me. And throughout so much of my life, not just even in the last couple of years, I've listened to be influenced. And what that ultimately means is someone outside of you think you need to give you instruction or permission to do whatever it is, whether it's a business mentor in building the business, a spiritual coach in going deeper into meditation. And the more that you sit with that outside of yourself, then you're always looking for something external. And everything is internal within. So you already have the answers. And if you don't read the world as the world is yours, giving you signs to get to those answers, you're going to take longer to understand where you are. So you can heal instantly and you can change instantly. You can become a multi-millionaire instantly. But your belief system and your capacity doesn't match your belief system. So that's why most of us can't instantly change. And you go to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat and there's people who heal instantaneously and incredible. Like they literally heal in front of you. Like there's people who couldn't walk who are now walking. And there's a double-edged sword here, because did they heal instantaneously? Or was it the prior work that they did to then heal instantaneously? Or did their mindset shift because they're in such a different environment that then they could have the belief that they could heal instantaneously because someone has given them permission to, because they've seen someone else on stage? Now, this is where it gets fun and interesting and where we might confuse your audience a little bit. And by the looks of it, confuse you as well. Because
don't think so.
It really doesn't matter, because all answers, yes. But it doesn't matter because all answers are the same. It's whichever of those beliefs you have is right for you. And there is no right or wrong. It is your belief system, your capacity to believe, and how you can hold that belief within the container of your body. Have I lost you, or I'm still with you?
No. I'm here, and my audience as well. Do not underestimate my audience.
I definitely don't. I've seen some of the incredible videos you've had.
They've been through a lot with me. They've been through exorcists. They've been through spiritual tattooing. They've been through a lot with me.
Nice. I've not heard of spiritual tattooing. That's a new one for me.
So, but the point I was making that weird face is because I was thinking you went to diplomatic school since we last had our one-on-one. It sounded a bit more, a bit more, But all right, I'll take it. And I think you gave a good basis, let's let that simmer for a moment, if it's all right with you. So everybody can take a moment, because it opens such a beautiful baseline for the work that you mainly do right now and the questions I have around this work. So I think this is a good baseline to jump into it. Let us give it another introduction, another couple of minutes. What are you doing as a facilitator? Because it's rather interesting. Traveling around the world is not just for fun. You're actually being there, providing things, holding space, helping, working in a very unique capacity. Maybe you can give us here one more quick introduction of what you do.
Yeah, so at the moment, I kind of have two arms to me. So I'm going to put it as a location arm, because it just easier to explain. I have a Bali arm, and then I have a Panama arm. And in Bali, I am working with a retreat leader, putting on various different retreats. So we just had one in March, which is for entrepreneurs and leaders to come and really get over themselves and get to their next level. We have that same retreat again in November. We have a women's only retreat, which is in July. And then we've just putting together an online summit, which will be at the end of June, which will be a free online summit. So I'll give Phil the link so that you guys can also join, because there'll be a lot of value in there. We've got 22 speakers over 2 days. It's going to be incredible. And then we're going to do an in-person wellness summit in September in Bali, which hasn't been done before. We're working with the government here and really going to try and drive this type of event in Bali, because Bali is known for being a spiritual place. I mean, there's retreats for every capacity here. And we want to go kind of that one step and get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people in a room and see how much impact we can do over the space of a weekend. And then the other side of that is Panama. So I was living in Panama previously for 3 years, and I got divinely introduced to a guy, Chris, who has 405 acres in Bocas del Toro, and is in the process of building a conscious community. So it's called the Conscious Island, and it's based off of the work of Joe Dispenza. The reason being, the founder was at a Joe Dispenza retreat and got in his meditation that he was going to build a community. And at that time, he owned, I think, 20 acres. And he thought, okay, maybe it's like 4 or 5 Airbnbs. And then when he came home from the retreat, 18 of his neighbors sold as many pieces of land adjacent to his property. Now, that just doesn't happen. Like that level of magic just doesn't exist in the world. So when I heard that story, I was like, I'm in. I don't care what I'm doing, but I want to be involved somehow. So I'm now on the senior leadership team. We're just in the process of drawing funding, and the idea being that it will have luxury over the water villas, but the center will be a wellness center, a part hotel where people come and host different events weekly. So there'll be 52 events a year. If you live on the island, then you get access to the retreats, but it will be a space that people can come and go. So they're the two. Plus also speaking, so being on podcasts, being invited on stages. I just opened the Global Possibility Summit here in Bali this weekend. So yeah, there's a couple of different hats I wear. And for me, they all speak to each other and interlink. It's all about how we can bring people home to themselves, how they can build a deeper connection in various different capacities.
Right. So when you always talk about those retreats and talk about Bali, let's stay a little bit on Bali, if you're right now on Bali.
Yeah.
So you say you're like a retreat manager, a retreat co-organizer. Is that your role, your capacity?
Yes, and also whilst at the retreat, kind of be an emotional support, holding the space, making sure that people are understanding what's going on. Because sometimes we know we want to change, we know we want the next step, but the more that you delve into spirituality, sometimes it can get a little bit weird. So just making sure that people are staying grounded, understanding kind of their own journey and their own transformation, and giving them support, just not to the facility and the retreat itself, but in regards to the people, and holding that space for them to allow whatever comes up in that moment.
You are the perfect guest to talk about the spiritual industry. I guess you're the number one person to speak to about how the sausage is made. And because there's a lot of conflicting elements here. I've been in the spiritual business for way more than 30 years. And you always have the money makers, and you always have the true and honest, full-hearted that have like 3 people in the room, but it's all love and harmony. And you have some things in the middle that try to mix it all up. So there is a whole world with this spirituality business. And quite often than not, the ones who make the real big bucks are not necessarily the really good guys. What would you say on such a statement?
I think there is a space for everyone. And I think it also comes back down to that thing of, do you want to be influenced or do you want to be inspired? Because for so long, I was really happy being influenced, and I would listen to people on stage and I'd get pumped up for like whatever session. And then afterwards, I'd just do nothing about it. And then when I started to open my heart more, the people that I naturally gravitated towards were more the heart-led people. Now, it's going to be a personal preference, and it's going to be where people are at in their own journeys as well. And I believe so truthfully that everything is divinely perfect for everyone in that moment of time. So it's also about what's right for you, and whether you can see the lesson and the growing and the expansion in that moment. Now, there's nothing wrong with the money makers if you know that that's what they are and you're okay with that. But there's also like a beauty in the people that are the people who have 3 people in the room and who lead so beautifully. But I would also counter that with like the middle is the harmonious part, because if you're too spiritual, and too spiritual is probably the wrong phrase, but if you believe that money is bad and that you don't deserve money, or that like people, you shouldn't be charging for things, then there is also an element of, okay, where is your self-worth in that? Why do you not believe that you can offer value and accept that exchange? Because everything in the world is an exchange, whether it's energy, whether it's a physical monetary value, whether it's going back in the day of here's my pig for some bananas, whatever it is. So there's always an exchange, and it's just about understanding what that is. And money at the end of the day is energy. And this is why I believe in entrepreneurship being spiritual, because you have to get to a certain level to be a multimillionaire. Even if you seem to be on the bad side, you understand a specific set of universal laws that bring you in more money. So I think that, now don't get me wrong, I do believe that there are some bad practices in the spiritual world. And I've had several people reach out to me around various different capabilities. Like I was part of a group and I was doing a podcast with a guy, and several women reached out to me saying that he was being very inappropriate. Now, he wasn't inappropriate to me, or if he was, I didn't pick up on it because it wasn't in my frequency. However, once that had been brought into my peripheral, then I had a conscious choice I needed to make. Now, was I going to continue working? And actually, we'd already broken the relationship, but was I going to continue working with that person? That would be a choice for me, and how I would handle that. And there's an element of your own boundaries and what you accept as well, and how you choose to show up. So if your boundaries are constantly being broken and you're finding yourself in very negative situations, or situations that are making you feel uncomfortable, you can divinely have the right to leave those situations. And sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to do that. We believe these spiritual leaders are there to help us, and we cross our own boundaries. And it's about really learning how to be in tune with yourself. And if something doesn't feel right, the likelihood is it's not right. So just trust yourself that you know what is best for you, and trust yourself through the energy someone's giving you and the way people are showing up. And you'll start to notice that with people's marketing, and things won't resonate with you as much as they used to. And I was actually speaking about this to a friend yesterday, and he said one of his mentors is they're turning over around £2 million in coaching a year. Amazing. And he doesn't even market because he has this belief that everything is going to come inbound to him, and it does. And he's resonating at a specific frequency where he doesn't even need to be doing the marketing and the funnels and whatever, because he already has that belief. And then the people that he's working with, they just naturally attract towards that. And just before I kind of finish on that point, that doesn't mean that also marketing is bad or but is it authentic to you? Are you trying to captivate on someone's trauma? And I've seen this, I'm going to use breath work as an example. It's like, this specific breath is to release all of your trauma. And there's a huge guy who's really muscly and he's really shouting at the screen at you. Like, you're going to release your trauma through this one nasal breath. Again, targeting people who may be vulnerable isn't something I would personally do. Helping people understand that they have a transformation process to go through, and maybe this tool will help you. But everything is a tool. You have the capability to do everything yourself, but it's about what resonates and the messaging for you. And there was a very long answer, so I hope people are still with me. But there's a right place for everything, and there's a right place. If you believe that everything is perfect for you, just look at everything consciously, take an observer view, and if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
It was a long answer, but an interesting one. So you hooked me here with this answer because there are a lot of elements inside that people who've organized things myself, and I had meditation studios and God knows what in my lifetime. So for me, it all resonates a lot because I've been in the shoes. If the audience fully followed us, we will have to wait and see the comments. But let's make it a bit simpler to have the quick one. How would you spot, or what would you see as some key elements when you see some leaflet or some marketing about some retreat somewhere around the world, exotic islands, beautiful pictures? But what would you see as some key elements that you will be careful? And once you're there, what would you see as a emotional exploitation or just a money grabbing? What would be some very concrete elements? You said once you don't feel right, it ain't right. I think that's a good one. But again, you see people come there, they fly very far, they put a lot of money onto it. There is a beautiful island and all the exotics and this. So, senses get quite confused in such an being out of context environment. Let's look a little bit on the elements where you maybe can have a couple of ideas. I mean, you have more experience than any of us with retreats.
100%. And one thing that is a great tool is remove those elements. Close your eyes, take a breath, and check in with yourself. How is your body feeling? If there is anxiety anywhere in your system, find out why that anxiety is there and what's causing that. Now, for me, anxiety is a big red flag. Now, there is a difference, and some people can't distinguish, especially if they're early on in their journey, the difference between anxiety and fear. Now, fear quite often is packaged in a way that is actually good for us. So, for example, speaking on stage on Saturday, I've spoken on stage before. I haven't done it in this specific format. This fear came up inside of me and I was like, what is this? I've done so much work around this, but it was like that excited fear, that fear like, okay, this is the next step. This is a next level up for me. It wasn't a fear that was making me feel erratic. It wasn't a fear that was making my heart feel stressed and tight and bringing the body into dis-ease. It was it was a different type of emotion. So checking in with yourself and how you're feeling, giving yourself permission to check in with yourself. Like half of the time, if someone's talking to me and I'm unsure, I will literally close my eyes and be like, what am I feeling right now? And a lot of people can't do that because they're scared of people's judgment. Oh, she's a bit weird. Why is she doing that? But for me, it's so important to listen to myself, because for so long I did not. That is more important than what the other person thinks of me. There's also things like muscle testing. So a great way to know whether you actually want to do it, because your body doesn't lie to you. Your mind will tell you stories, and your mind will try and convince you that it's all okay, that the women in your audience, I am sure there has been an icky man and you still stood and talked to him, or maybe even given you his number, your number to him, and you know that it's wrong, but out of politeness, you do it. These are the sorts of things where you need to understand crossing your own boundaries and also what your body is telling you. There's a reason that people say, oh, he was giving me bad vibes. She was giving me bad vibes. She was negative, like, because energy is a real thing. So it's about learning how to read that. So Phil, if you don't mind, if I could just share what the body muscle testing is with your audience. So stand up and do it now as we're talking, and just ask yourself permission to show you your yes. Now, the likelihood is you're going to either lean forward, lean backwards, or lean to the side. So just check in with yourself now and just ask yourself, show me my yes. For me, I lean forward. And show me my no. I lean slightly back and my knees lock. Now, when you start to really practice this, you will, and also just test it with, once you've listened to our podcast, not right now, obviously, because we want you to be listening. But like once you start to practice this, also test yourself with something. Okay, my name is Phil. I'm going to go backwards. And just find out where your parameters are, and then use this on a daily basis. Your body is the key to knowing what is going on. It will override your mind. It will show you things that you won't necessarily pick up on if you're just thinking about it from the brain.
Thank you so much for sharing this very good and important test, because maybe it's exactly these things, yeah? Looking at the flyers, looking at all of these things might be highly confusing and inconclusive, but looking at yourself, that should be the real information that you're actually seeking. Am I at a good place or am I at a bad place? Let us spend 3 more minutes on the same subject, but this time from your perspective as a facilitator. What are the elements you would like, now you're making your dream retreat, whatever, basically in your mind, what would be the elements you would like to bring to make sure that people are feel good, that they have their space, but they also have the community? What are the visuals, emotions, whatever comes to your mind? How would your dream retreat look like?
Honestly, people showing up with the openness. So at the last retreat, there was a prime example. So and she won't mind me sharing this, but I won't use her name, but one of the girls from Dubai, she came in, hat down, like very much like not wanting to be seen. However, in the opening circle, kind of why you are here, she just said, I'm tired. I'm tired of like playing these personas. I don't even know who I am. Like, I don't even know what my name is, because she was called something when she was younger to what she calls herself now. I'm just tired. I'm ready. And literally just knowing that and just being open to whatever unfolds is the perfect person to come to a retreat. Now, not everyone's going to show up like that because everyone's different on their journey. But if you are truly if you can show up authentically in yourself, you're going to get so much out of it. And that's where, as a facilitator, we can even bring you further along the journey. Now, if you're closed, there's still a reason you're there. And it is still perfect in that moment. Now, it might take you a month, it might take you a year. I mean, there's still things that I went to a retreat 2 years ago, and the other day I was like, oh, that's what that was. That makes sense now. Like, just be open that also you might not get the answer that you want for in that moment, and that's okay. Everything is so perfect for you and is created for you that whatever you receive, it is perfect. So from a facilitator's ideal standpoint, someone who's open. But to be honest, as long as you're showing up authentically, and even if that is authentic by just being quiet and closed and reserved, that is also welcome.
Right. So again, it's very interesting because I've asked this question to a couple of other people as well. And it's the same innocent little question, and you get such a diverse kind of answers. I'm not Hercule Poirot to run deep psychological tests on people, but if I would be, this would be my prime question to ask. I think it's wonderfully revealing in an effect. So I have to a little bit dwell on this for the future. I'm onto something here, just to know.
Yeah.
All
no,
right.
definitely.
So we've spoken a lot about Bali, about retreats and how people come with this. I know something else that's very similar, but in a way not, because it's that you're building a community. And that's something I also would love to talk to you a couple of minutes about, because that's something I think very interesting. Retreats, I understand. You have to fly or whatever, you're tired, whatever it is, you're booking that course, you're going there, you're joining it, you're paying for a service, and people move on. So this is all very clear to me. What was fascinating to me, maybe I have very little experience in this area, that's why it's so fascinating to me. And when we first time spoke, I was like, really wanted to dig deeper to understand how it is to kind of build a community where people come under one guidance or guru or idea, invest their time, invest their energy. Tell us a little bit about it, because not everyone had the pleasure of experiencing such a movement. And for me, it's fascinating what drives people into these communities.
So one thing I've learned the most is most people believe that they want to live in one of these communities, and the reality is very different. And that's something we've actually had to kind of like surrender to. So initially we were going to build 400 homes between the jungle, the water, and over the land. And actually that's now dropped to 30. And the reason being is people like comfort. They like being in their comfortable way of life. And the idea of living on a conscious island is way more of a dream and in the magic than actually in the reality. And this is been a big lesson for us, actually, that and why a lot of these communities haven't worked in the past, because people don't want to be living next to someone who leaves their toenails on the side, who they don't really know, or whatever crazy human habit that we tend to have. And this is why, for me, the event spaces are so kind of key, and why the event space within the community is really key, because it's allowing people to experience, maybe even just for a couple of months, this way of living. And I think we have to ease people in, and I think the world will shift more into these conscious communities, but I actually believe we're not quite ready yet. We really like the way of life that we've created for ourselves. And I think that by allowing people to experience this for a couple of months or a longer period of time, then they start to open up to the idea. Now, Bali is a very interesting place because it is like a spiritual community all of the time. But then you throw in the Bali traffic and some people can't handle it. They're like, oh, it's too much of the real world. And it's really interesting, the psychology of people's minds and what they think that they want versus actually the reality. So probably not the best answer for selling us in our community, but it's real. It's what we've found. It's the research that we've done and spoken to other community leaders. And like a good friend of mine has built several communities, and the biggest thing is travel. A lot of people are entrepreneurs, and if it's too far out or too much of a hassle, so for example, on the island, you'd need to get a boat and then a plane and then you'd be at the and then a taxi to the main airport to then leave Panama. That's a bit much for some people. Other people are like, great, get me there. I'm done with current cities. I just want peace and quiet. So it's really, really interesting how people operate and how people mostly actually don't know what they want and have these amazing ideas and creation, and then, oh no, actually that's not for me. I like my neighbor that moans at me and calls the police on me, and like, because they're used to it. So it's been an interesting dance, and one we've changed the whole concept around to now fit to people who would like maybe more that transient way of life and just come for a month or a couple of weeks and enjoy an experience like a retreat and go home to kids or dogs or whatever.
Yes, I do understand very well, because I've been spent the last 20 years in marketing, and the companies have failed between asking the clients what they want and then looking what the clients actually do is usually the complete opposite. And I've personally known quite a few organic fashion brands that never sold a single piece because everybody wants it. But then you go and buy something for $5 or $15, and you're a happy shopper. So this is a very interesting thing. What people say that they want, or what people even think that they want, honestly think that they want, and what they actually execute. This is a super different world. And it's interesting that you have to experience it and that you're tuning it and you're trying to adjust to this reality, which even more question mark, exclamation mark, makes me so fascinated how some people manage, if it's gurus or all kind of communities, to really build places, ashrams, where they're like 200 people, yeah, and they live there and they're committed and for free and they're doing it and they're giving everything they have. It even more makes me intriguing how on earth they pull it off. But that's, I guess, a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now
there's a couple of those that are I have friends who have experienced who are very exploitive. So yeah, it's super interesting how all of these things work, and I challenge your audience to just think, right, most people believe that they want to be a millionaire. Actually, what they want is $1 million. Now, being a millionaire versus spending $1 million and having $1 million to spend are two very different mindsets, two very different things. But also beyond that, the $1 million isn't even the thing. It's what they think that the $1 million can give them, which is freedom and the ability to do what they want or buy what they want or whatever it is. So even just that one concept, do you want to be a millionaire? Most people would say yes. But actually being a millionaire means probably making 10, 20 million to even be a millionaire, which goes beyond most people's capabilities. And when you come down to it, the core is the freedom of what they believe $1 million could give them.
Well, I clearly don't want to be a millionaire, so there you go. I can tell you that for certain. But there's one few things I do know about myself. But very good point. But I wanted to be now coming to the end to nicely tie it up, because we had a wonderful circle in this conversation. And it was much more interesting than I expected in a technical way. So let's see how the audience is going to react, because I think there's a lot of wisdom, but let's see if they can unpack it each step on the way. But actually, a lot of very important things have been said. And now let's bring us back to the beginning, because I think would be a wonderful link, what you just said about people, what they want, what they think they want, what they can take, the tuning of your space, understanding what makes it more accessible, and how to create these communities. I think we're now very wonderfully on your beginning introduction, when we talked about that the spirit that is there, what is present, what you can take from it, what you extract from it at the moment, at the place and time. So I think this is almost kind of squeezing it together a little bit, if I listen to you correctly. And I think you have a very interesting perspective of people's wishes, desires, possibilities, capabilities. You're almost building some kind of a net with different dots around the person, and it all squeezes a little bit to the core.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not complicated, but
Matrix
we overcomplicate it.
Sorry. Matrix was the word I was trying to find. You're building you're building a spiritual matrix.
Yeah, beautiful. But also, who cares if we are? Like, it's just, life is so simple that we complicate it. Literally, be happy in the moment, and it's okay to change your mind. And it's okay to not know what you want. And it's okay to just be whatever you want to be, but you get to create whatever it is that you want in whatever capacity. So if you want to listen to people who influence you, there is nothing wrong with that. If you want to listen to people that inspire you, there is nothing wrong with that. It's all perfect in the moment. And the more that you can have the belief that everything is created for you, your life becomes easier. Like, things don't annoy you. Like, traffic doesn't annoy you, because if you're stuck in a car for an extra 20 minutes than you're supposed to be, you believe that was meant for you for a reason. Now, there's an old film, Gwyneth Paltrow, Sliding Doors, and great film, and it's the perspective of have you seen it? No. So she in the beginning of the film, she's running down to get the tube, and in one scenario, she runs down and she manages to catch the tube. In the second scenario, there is a girl playing with a Barbie, and her mum just literally pulls her out of the way, but it delays her by 2 seconds, and she doesn't get on the tube. And that's the way we should look at life, because basically with the scenario at the end, they come together and it just turns out a different way. So there's no such thing as a bad choice. Like, you cannot make a bad choice, which is so freeing to our minds, so freeing to the anxiety, because every choice is supposed to be how you get to the point that you're at now. So you would not be sitting here listening to this podcast if you didn't have the exact life that you have led. And when you can really embody that, life is so beautiful, because everything is meant for me. Like, everything. Like, meeting you, Phil, is perfect, because I was supposed to meet you. I was supposed to have this conversation.
I'm going to ask this little funny fortune cookie question. Are you a lover of life, a lover of yourself, or a lover of people? Well, because
that is actually a mind-blowing question. I'm a lover of people. For me, people bring me essence and bring me joy. Like, I am a lover of life, I am a lover of myself, but people as a whole really just make me feel everything. Every job I've ever done, apart from 2 weeks as a data analyst, has been people-based. For me, they are the most fascinating, and it's a very hard question, but for me, lover of people.
Because I think I said it wrong. I said a spiritual matrix, but you're almost like, you're almost like the cutter of spiritual matrix. You look at people and then you put the spiritual matrix around it, And then you have this urge to tear it apart and let people free of the matrix they've built for themselves. It took me a while to get you, but I think I'm coming closer. That with all this technical, analytic, all of these things, you're just there to just know your enemy so you can tear him down.
Oh my God, that was perfect. I love that. Yes, we've literally put ourselves in an imaginary box and just thought, how do we get out, when we could literally just go, hello. And you put it so perfectly. I love that. Yes, just break down, get out, just be.
15 minutes it took me to say something smart, but there we go.
That is definitely true. There are huge gems from you, Phil. And I kind of wish that your audience was privy to our first conversation, because that also blew my mind.
Kirsty, I think it was a valuable conversation. Maybe not everyone will be following along. Maybe they will, maybe they don't. But there is a lot of wisdom embedded within. And you gave me quite a few surprising answers, like you always do. My most quoted person on the Spiritual Conversation podcast. Thank you so very much for coming here today. And I hope we'll see each other soon again.
Thank you so much for having me, Phil. And thank you to your audience. And I really appreciate you and look forward to speaking soon.
Thank you.